Well done, lads. You did well with the Summers case. But we have a problem. The examiner received the new letter today.
Do you mind if I take a look, Ray?
Go right ahead. They've both been rinsed in gasoline like the previous letters, so I can't lift a print.
We see 3 items. The first is an envelope with a message.
No one else but the killer knew about this message.
This message was written under the corpse of Teresa Terrellson, the victim in the white shoe slaying.
Teresa Terrellson didn't have a lipstick message.
Technically, you're right, Rusty. She didn't have any lipstick, but she did have a message. We found it beneath her dress, scraped with a sharp stick.
What did it say?
You sure you want to know?
Ray?
As far as we can be sure, it said, "Cunt BD."
That's one way of looking at it.
The only ones who knew about this message were the police and forensic team who removed the body and the killer himself. This note must be from the killer. Next to this, we find the letter.
Another snippet from the Shelley poem.
Looking in wonder up to heaven, while yet the music pealed along, I hid myself within a fountain in the public square, where I lay like a reflex of the moon seen in a wave under green leaves. What's he trying to tell us? I hid myself within a fountain in the public square? Is the killer hiding in a fountain? Next to this is a little red book. The poetic works of Percy Bysshe Shelley.
To suffer woes, which hope thinks infinite, to forgive wrongs darker than death or night.
To defy power, which seems omnipotent, to love and bear, to hope till hope creates from its own wreck the things it contemplates, neither to change nor falter nor repent. This, like thy glory, Titan, is to be good, great and joyous, beautiful and free. This is alone life, joy, empire, and victory. Exactly what power does this killer think he's defying? The power given to the police by the people of Los Angeles?
If the note is from the Dahlia maniac, he definitely also killed Teresa Terrellson.
Mal and I agree.
But where does that leave us? If this is the Dahlia killer, and he is responsible for the Tarrelson murder, not to mention the Muller
Hang
case.
on a moment, Skipper.
Let me finish, Rusty. We have 5 birds in hand and none in the bush. The department will not survive a scandal if we have to let them all go without catching a fiend first. Your careers will be over for a start, gentlemen.
Looking in wonder.
Fuck it.
While yet
I knew this run was too good to be true.
I hid myself within a fountain in the public square.
You like that stuff? What is it supposed to mean?
It's supposed to... Forget what it's supposed to... What does he want it
Where
to...
are you going with this, Cole?
He's obviously taunting us. He believes he's far more intelligent than we are.
Okay, it's some kind of story, right? A guy that God hates, chains him up.
It's an allegory, Rusty.
A what? Story with 2 meanings. A symbolic meaning. But that's what he wants us to think.
Could he be using it literally? Within a fountain in a public square? Could it be that easy?
Can somebody tell me what the fuck is going on?
The fountain in Pershing Square. Come on, we have a clue. Captain, thanks, Ray.
Be careful, Phelps. This is his game you're playing now.
Cole has an idea. Time for a little legwork to see if it bears fruit. Racing to the car, we can have Galloway drive us to Pershing Square.
All those cases, Rusty. What have I been telling you all along?
We've got to get this guy.
I know. Enough women have died.
Yeah, and it's our asses on the line too, Phelps. You heard what the captain said. The department is not going to take responsibility for all those bad convictions.
Success is a double-edged sword.
Let's just get this sick pervert and have it done with.
We arrive at Pershing Square at 2:50 p.m. As we approach the fountain, Galloway makes it clear that he doesn't want to get his shoes wet.
Rather you than me, Phelps.
Stepping in the shallow water, we don't see anything, but if Cole hops on top...
You know the local hobos use that as a latrine.
Thanks, Rusty. We find 2 pieces of evidence. The first is another letter.
There is a cave, all overgrown with trailing, odorous plants which curtain out the day. Where next?
with leaves and flowers and paved with veined emeralds, and a fountain leaps in the midst with an awakening sound. From its curved roof the mountain's frozen tiers, like snow or silver or long diamond spires, hang downward, raining forth a doubtful light. From its curved roof, frozen tiers like long diamond spires hang downward. Where could that be? Next to this, we find a social security card.
Elizabeth Short. Betty Short. Black Dahlia.
This is the social security card of Elizabeth Short. She was the real-world murder victim, the real-world Black Dahlia. In real life, her social security number is different from the one we find here, but this means that the killer we're tracking down really is the Black Dahlia murderer.
Elizabeth Short's social security card.
Jesus Christ.
That's not all. There's another stanza from Shelley.
Can you work it out? You got a city map? See if you can work out where he's taking us. I don't like this freak leading us around by the nose.
Taking out our city map, we thankfully find a number of local landmarks pinpointed for us. There's the Main Street Terminal. Oh, that can't be it. We're looking for shards of crystal or tears or something hanging from the ceiling. It isn't until we read the tourist note concerning the Hall of Records that we get a possible match. The distinctive twin Gothic towers of the Hall of Records rise above a domed skylight some 50 feet across. The glasswork depicts a mountain cave overgrown with plants and wildflowers, and a waterfall chandelier hangs downward over the lobby. This has to be it. He was mentioning the chandelier. Marking it on our map, we can race back to the car and have Galloway take us there.
Him. It's really him, the fuck who killed the Dahlia. Believe this? He's leading us.
It's his game, Rusty. He may want someone to catch him, but he's extremely dangerous. I doubt if he will give up easily.
Suits me down to the fucking ground. We clip this fuck and we get citation. What a day to be a cop. Pencil pushing Parker won't be able to shove me aside after this.
We arrive at the Hall of Records at 3:00 p.m. Heading through the main doors, we see it. The chandelier, the crystal shards hanging from the dome above.
Can I help you, sir?
Detectives, LAPD. This is very important, sir. How do we get to the top of the chandelier?
You what?
Have a little faith, pal. We're in a real hurry.
Head up to the top floor. There's an access panel and a ladder in the maintenance room.
Taking the staircase, we pass the first floor until we arrive on the top floor. Now we're looking for a maintenance room. Turning right. Is it down here? Oh, Galloway seems to know where it is. Okay, I'll follow you, buddy. Galloway walks us right to the maintenance room.
Let's go.
Here we find a ladder. Leaping up, we arrive on a ledge above and can open a door right to the chandelier.
I'm going out there, Rusty.
Better you than me. Be careful. Could be a trap.
Ooh, we have to carefully balance Cole, otherwise he falls to his death. How did the Dahlia killer get up here to begin with, without being noticed? On top of the chandelier, we find two pieces of evidence. The first is a watch.
Deirdre Muller's missing watch.
That's right, Deirdre Muller from the Golden Butterfly case. We arrested her husband, Hugo, for the crime, but the one piece of evidence we never did retrieve was her missing watch.
Looks like she was tied up.
It does at first, but that would leave a mark on her other wrist, too. I think her watch might have been torn off.
So the Dahlia killer killed her too. Lying next to the watch is another note.
From the temples high of man's ear and eye, roofed over sculptures and poesy. Where have I seen that?
From the murmurings of the unsealed springs, where science bedews his daedal wings. This is a reference to Daedalus from Greek mythology, who crafted the wings his son Icarus used to fly. Remember, he flew too close to the sun, the wax on the wings melted, and Icarus fell to his death. But we have a couple of clues here. Which is the right one? Are we looking for a temple? Are we looking for some sort of sculpture park? A murmuring spring? An aviary? What? But just as Cole begins to stand...
Jesus Christ, hold it off that goddamn thing. Find a rope, Rusty. It's time. See if you can swing that thing from side to side. Get it over the edge, then jump for it.
Oh, okay, well, good advice, Rusty. I guess it's a good thing he's down there. Using Cole's weight, we can sway the chandelier back and forth until it gets close enough to the ledge so that Cole can leap to safety.
That was too close.
Yeah, well, the higher you climb, the further you fall.
Let's get out of here.
Another Dahlia clue?
No, a yellow gold wristwatch.
A Molder dame.
Yes, and a scrap of the poem.
Another location.
If I can work it out.
Pulling open the map. Okay, well, what do we look for here? A temple, an art gallery, a statuary, something to do with wings and angels? We find a church, Christ Crown of Thorns, but its description doesn't really give us what we need. It isn't until we reach the LA Public Library that the clues click together. Bertram Grosvenor Goodhue drew on ancient Egypt to create his high temple-like central library. Temple! There it is. The building is roofed over with a mosaic pyramid, and a sculptured torch-bearing hand stands at the apex, representing the scientific light of learning. This is our best bet, so marking the location on our map, we can have Rusty drive us there.
He keeps mementos from all his victims.
This guy needs to be taken out of circulation.
He takes pleasure at stringing us along, demonstrating how much smarter he is.
You can enjoy it while it lasts. We got you now, genius. Coming for you.
We arrive at the LA Public Library at 3:30 p.m. But we're not going to go inside because the note talked about the temple, the roof. Therefore, we need to scale the exterior.
I'm pulling rank here, Cole. I'm not hauling myself up there. Go get him, Tiger.
Slow me down anyway, old-timer.
Of course, Galloway. Who'd expect you to do any actual work? Cole starts by scaling a pipe. This leads to a rooftop. Looks like there's two ways to go. We could climb some scaffolding or shimmy across the ledge over here. Oh. Well, looks like we can't shimmy over there. All right, one option left. Scaling the scaffolding, we reach a larger roof. Here we see more scaffolding leading to the pyramid at the top. Let's see if we can find an opening on this side. No. Oh, well, there we go. We'll take a ladder. Taking a ladder up to the next level, we have to gingerly balance across a beam. This leads to another rooftop where we can ascend further using a pipe. This brings us to another ladder. At the top, we have a wonderful view of downtown LA, but no time for sightseeing. Leaping across, we can run around to the other side. Here we find another ladder. Taking it all the way to the top, we can cross yet another beam.
Sometimes a step backwards is a step in the right direction.
Thanks for that tip, Cole. Looks like we have to go down. Let's take the quick route. Taking the scaffolding all the way to the floor, we find another ladder. This one brings us all the way to the top. Here we find the pyramid and a number of statues. There is no way to enter the pyramid. Instead, as we round each corner, we eventually find our clues.
Our Lady of Guadalupe, ripped from Antonia's necklace.
This was the religious symbol worn by Antonia Maldonado. We found her during the silk stocking murder.
When we found your wife, her jewelry had been removed. Was she wearing her religious medallion last night?
Sure. She always wore that.
But we never found it on her body. And lying next to this is the next note.
Round which death laughed, sepulchred emblems of dead destruction, ruin within ruin. So this is a treasure hunt.
The wrecks beside of many a city vast, whose population which the earth grew over was mortal, but not human. See they lie, their monstrous works and uncouth skeletons, their statues, homes and fanes, prodigious shapes huddled in gray, annihilation, split, jammed in the hard, black deep. Death, destruction. was mortal but not human, monstrous, uncouth skeletons jammed in the hard, black deep?
What is it this time?
The religious metal from the Maldonado case.
The Dahlia, Molar, Maldonado. And this gets out?
We still have to find the guy, Rusty.
Another poem. Well, you must have some idea, right? Come on, Phelps. We're on a roll here. Don't let me down.
Would hate to let you down, Rusty. You're welcome to look at the map. Taking a look at the map ourselves. Skeletons deep. Is he talking about a museum? Are we gonna find dinosaur bones somewhere? There's that church again, a hospital. There's a museum, but it doesn't say anything about bones. It isn't until we hover over the Westlake Tar Pits that it begins to make sense. Father Juan Crespi wrote of Los Volcanos de Bray in 1769. By 1901, archaeological specimens were emerging, including the skeleton of a human female in 1914. Trauma to her skull suggests that she may have been LA's first recorded homicide. The Tar Pits, and we know that monstrous beasts have been found here, including uncouth skeletons. We've got it. So marking the location on our map, we can race back to the car and have Rusty drive us there.
We're gonna catch hell for this. Banging up innocent men.
The newspapers will crucify the guy. They won't have time to wonder about our mistakes. We'll be okay, Rusty, as long as we catch the guy.
I hope you're right, Cole. We'll be famous if we make this case.
We arrive at the Westlake Tar Pits at 4:10 p.m. Passing the sign, we walk right to the edge of the pits.
These are my best shoes, Phelps. I'll leave you to it.
Rusty, you smug putz.
Very funny.
Whoa! Get a move on, Cole. Those boards are sinking. You want to end up like the other fossils?
We can barely see the boards beneath the surface. Looks like we have to chart a path for ourselves here.
Gangway snaked around, Phelps. Can you see it through the car?
Barely, no thanks to you, Galloway.
Whoa! How you doing out there?
I'd be doing better if you were the one trying to get across this thing.
The ones with posts are sturdy. The ones without sink a foot or so every time we put our weight on them.
Easy.
At any moment, we could tip over and join the fossils in their grave.
You don't want to fall in now, Phelps.
That's at the forefront of my thinking.
But at last, we see land before us. We arrive on a tiny island, and it isn't long until we find the next clue. A shoe.
One of Teresa Terreldson's shoes.
Teresa Terreldson again.
The green silk dress is very distinctive. Any sign of her other shoe?
First the note scribbled under her body, now one of her missing shoes. She was, of course, the victim in the white shoe slaying, providing us with an easy connection. And next to the shoe is yet another note.
A sphere which is as many thousand spheres. Okay, where to now?
And from the other opening in the wood rushes with loud and whirring harmony a sphere, which is as many thousand spheres, solid as crystal, yet through all its mass flow as though empty space, music and light. A sphere which is as many thousand spheres, flowing with music, light, and with a loud whirlwind of harmony? Oh, maybe Rusty's got a good idea. And then, for some reason, Cole and Galloway decide to go on a paddle boat ride.
What is it?
An open-toed white shoe, and another stanza from the poem.
Oh, I really thought that hobo bum did the Terrelson broad.
Confessions from the insane aren't the most credible evidence, Rusty.
Is this thing over?
It's all part of his power over us, making us run round all over the city for the crumbs he's leaving us.
So if we keep this up, we can find the guy?
I guess Rusty just decided to row to the island to rescue Cole instead of having him walk all the way back. Of course, why they didn't do that from the beginning, I'll never know. At any rate, we can open the map to try and find our next location. We pass by many of the same points of interest we've already looked at, and it isn't until we hover over the LA County Art Museum that we see a sphere within many thousand spheres. This site hosted racing and gambling until 1909, when concerned citizens had it recreated as a cultural center. The museum kept fine art, while the Rose Garden hid wonders such as a sphere within a sphere celestial model, or armillary sphere. That has to be it. So racing back to the car, we can have Rusty take us there.
Well, this guy looks out for women in bars who've had too much to drink.
Who are emotionally disturbed.
Need a shoulder to cry on, he plies them with booze.
Probably offers them a lift home.
Then beats their brains out and strangles them. Could be any schmo hanging out.
No, not anyone. He displays the bodies, leaves us messages. For all the violence, it's very controlled behavior.
We arrive at the LA County Art Museum at 6 o'clock p.m. We discover that the sphere is at the center of a garden maze. Oh no. What's interesting about this is that Daedalus, who made the wings for his son Icarus, was also known for making the Minotaur's maze, the labyrinth. So, nice bit of continuity there.
On it goes. When do you think we'll reach the end of this thing?
The center of the proverbial labyrinth? How long's a piece of string? How many unsolved murders have we got in the city?
How many solved ones?
You ever been in here, Gavin?
No, I have no intention of going in. I heard that thing's tricky. I'm gonna wait here and have a quiet smoke. Think about hidden meetings.
Well, I can't deny that a nice smoke can make one thoughtful, and I suppose it's better that we don't have two cops lost in this maze. But now we have to feel our way through. Cole starts by taking the only path before him. Eventually we reach a T-junction. Do we go left or do we go right? We go right. At length, we reach an intersection. 3 possible choices. Do we go left? Do we go straight? Or do we go right? We go left. At length, we see an opening to the right. Do we continue straight, or do we go right? We go right. And almost immediately, we have to make another choice. Right? Or left? We go left. The spinning sphere gets louder, louder. When we reach the sphere, we find 2 clues. The first is a ring.
What's belonging to Celine Axford Henry.
This brings us all the way back to our very first homicide case, the red lipstick murder.
A regular Amelia Earhart in her day. The ring looks distinctive.
Celine Henry, the former pilot, whose old boyfriend Dick McCall we met at the Bomba Club.
Mrs. Henry appeared to be missing a ring, torn from her finger, but not her wedding finger.
Celine always wore a red garnet ring on the large side.
An old boyfriend who once bought her a large garnet ring. A ring we never found on her body. And lying next to the ring is the next note.
thrones, altars, judgment seats, and prisons. No, it couldn't be.
Cole seems to already know where this clue leads us, but what gave it away? Thrones, altars, judgment seats, and prisons, wherein and beside which by wretched men were born scepters, tiaras, swords and chains, and tomes of reasoned wrong, glozed on by ignorance, were like those monstrous and barbaric shapes, the ghosts of a no more remembered fame, which from their unworn obelisks look forth. What? Monstrous shapes, ghosts, from within unworn obelisks, thrones, altars, judgment seats, prisons?
See? That was easy.
I found Celine Henry's ring.
How far does this thing go? How did we not catch this nut job?
Cole's reaction threw me off guard. He seemed to think the answer was obvious, but I couldn't think of the answer. Perhaps it was so obvious to him because it was a place he had visited before. What other points of interest on this map have we visited before? And then we find it. The Intolerance set. The same Intolerance set we visited in our final traffic case. The Great Wall of Babylon set was built for D.W. Griffith's silent epic Intolerance. More than 3,000 extras paraded past the altar and throne, beneath 8 giant plaster elephants, the monstrous and barbaric shapes. The film, the most expensive ever produced at the time, flopped at the box office. Racing back to the car, we can have Galloway take us there.
She's leaving us this trail of evidence.
Why? Vanity. He wants to see if there's anyone out there smart enough to catch him.
He leaves us evidence, but every location is a trap.
He's testing us, physically and mentally, to see whether we are worthy of him.
The Titan guy. You have the stoush with God.
Very good. You thinking about reading some Shelley?
All that egghead stuff? I'm sticking to the funny papers and the form guy. You sleep better at night.
Good old simple Galloway. But God bless him, he's right. You do sleep better at night that way. We arrive at the Intolerance Movie Set at 7:30 p.m., and a rain has blown in.
There's the throne up there.
Now it's just a matter of getting to it.
We already know how fragile this set was. I'm surprised the entire thing didn't collapse the last time we were here. Now we have to find our way through this ruin to get to the throne. I thought maybe I could scale this fallen over pillar, but again, Galloway seems to know exactly where to go. All right, I've learned my lesson. I'll just follow you, Galloway. He leads us to a staircase. Now I can run ahead. At the top of the staircase, we go through an arch to arrive at a gap that we have to leap across.
Jesus, now look what you did. Hang on, Cole, I'll get you off of there.
But as soon as we do, most of it collapses around us, and the pillar begins to fall. We have to carefully shift Cole's weight to nudge the pillar forward, so that when it falls, we can leap to the next platform. But sometimes it's not cooperative.
You've got to make it to the next platform. Get that thing as close as you can, then jump.
Easy breezy. Now here I wasted time. I completely missed the ladder sitting right there and walked all the way to the end of this platform, only to realize I was at a dead end. So turning around, we can head back to the ladder and take it to the ground. This puts us out right next to the throne. Now to see what the killer has left for us. We find 2 clues, but one is hard to see. Picking it up, we realize...
Typewriter ring. Evelyn Summers.
It was the ring worn by Evelyn Summers from the studio secretary murder. We only learned about this ring if we chose not to accuse James Tiernan, her friend, of her murder.
Evelyn was missing a ring from her right hand.
That's strange. She always wore it. Big black circular disc with a white E in the middle. It was made from an old typewriter key, a present from the prop department at our old movie studio.
And lying next to the ring is the next note.
Place he calls home.
End of the line.
Remit the anguish of that lighted stare. Close those wan lips. Let that thorn-wounded brow stream not with blood. It mingles with thy tears. Fix those tortured orbs in peace and death, so thy sick throes shake not that crucifix, so those pale fingers play not with thy gore. Oh, horrible! Thy name I will not speak. It hath become a curse. I see the wise, the mild, the lofty, and the just, whom thy slaves hate for being like to thee, some hunted by foul eyes from their heart's home, an early chosen, late lamented home. Cole seems to think that the reference to home here means that here we will find the killer, but the location is plain as day. Thorn-wounded brow, the crown of thorns that Christ wore, shake not that crucifix. All of this religious imagery is pointing us towards a church, and we've passed over a church while searching for all of the other locations a number of times. I think I know where to go. But just as we're about to leave, the entire set begins to collapse around us. All we can do is run as fast as we can.
No! Come on!
I thought the whole thing was gonna come crashing down on him.
I thought so too. He murdered Evelyn Summers, Rusty. The last trophy was her ring.
You find another piece of the poem?
Yes. The last piece.
You sure, Cole?
Let's find out.
Pulling out our map, we can set our next location to be Christ, Crown of Thorns. Built in 1858, Christ, Crown of Thorns was a Gothic revival masterpiece, but fell into disrepair after a tree collapsed on the roof in the storm of September 1939. A work of leadlight rises above the abandoned altar, depicting the crucifixion and a weeping virgin. All our pieces click into place. We arrive at the abandoned church and presbytery at 7:38 p.m. We see the hole in the roof that the tree made, and as we pass by the graveyard, we notice that one of the iron pickets is missing. This final clue ties in one piece of evidence that until now didn't make any sense. During the silk stocking murder, we discovered that Antonia Maldonado's room at the Parsons boarding house had been broken into. Her rear window had been smashed, and next to it we found an iron fence picket.
So someone broke in using this thing instead of a crowbar. Wonder where it was taken from.
Which didn't match any of the fencing here.
You've had a break-in?
I heard a noise in the early hours of the morning. I thought it might be a raccoon at the milk bottles.
At the time, we had no idea what went on here, but now we know. The killer pulled the iron picket from the fence of this church to break into her apartment to steal her medallion. Well, there's nothing for it. We have no idea where this killer is lurking, and so we'll walk through the main door.
Reminds me of my days as an altar boy.
There's a light coming from the house.
Nothing hasty, gentlemen. Keep your hands where I can see them, or I'll be forced to redecorate the stucco with your entrails.
We're from the LAPD, sir. I'm gonna tell you only once to lower your weapon.
The LAPD, you say? Is it really possible you could have found me after all this time? How interesting.
Put down the gun, shitbird. Last warning.
This boorish ignoramus could never have found me. It was you, wasn't it? Do you remember me, detective?
The temp bartender.
Yes, you found me.
The temp bartender? And suddenly, it all comes rushing back.
You don't think it's strange that all these murders are happening to girls who've been out drinking?
You worked the bar last night?
Yeah, me and a temp guy from the agency.
Can you remember what jewelry she was wearing?
The temp guy would have more of an idea. She took the beer he served her and cried into it all night.
She had another couple of drinks. There was no fun left in her. Just poured her guts out to some bartender.
Medium height, medium build.
Dark hair, I think. Sorry. He just had one of those forgettable faces.
The temp bartender whom we interviewed during the red lipstick murder.
Gentlemen, what can I get you?
Were you working here last night?
Yes. How can I help, officer?
You can start with your name.
Garrett Mason.
You're the regular bartender on nights?
I'm a temporary barman. I work for an agency. I fill in at bars across town.
Do you remember a woman who came in here last night?
You mean Celine Henry?
Garrett Mason. That's why every single victim had something to do with bars and drinking. Garrett Mason had bumped into each of the women while working as a temp bartender at the various bars throughout LA. These were all crimes of opportunity. He found vulnerable women through his work, used his position as a bartender to learn about all of their personal details, and then, after befriending them, causing them to trust him, drove them back here to the church, where he murdered them.
You know what I'm capable of, and yet you walk in here like lambs, dressed for the slaughter.
We'll see about that.
Oh, Galloway, way to make the first move. We prepare for a gunfight, but Mason has fled. Racing up to the altar.
Where did he go?
Down the tunnel?
You can't let the son of a bitch get away.
The house, Rusty. There must be another entrance into the house.
Instead of taking the tunnel Garrett apparently used, for some reason we're going to skip that and go straight to the nearby house. Racing across the green, we can kick in the front door.
LAPD, give yourself up.
And we arrive at his lair. We see books scattered all over the tables, a creepy organ, of course, in the corner, and medical illustrations plastered all over the walls. Heading through a door by the fireplace, we pass into what must have been Garrett's bedroom. And for all his bragging, his highbrow references, Garrett Mason has been living in filth, in a ruin, with a bedpan under his bed for God knows how long. Out of his room, we see his office and the typewriter he used to write all of his messages. A waste bin nearby, filled with crumpled up papers, tells us that he really put a lot of thought and effort into his little taunts. This really meant a lot to him. Back in the dining room, we can pass through a door to the pantry. We see foodstuff strewn about, and two doors in the corner. One doesn't work, the other we can open. And as soon as we do, we find a pit leading to the catacombs below, where Mason is likely hiding.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
And in the center of the room, a bloody bathtub.
You realize this must have been the place, Rusty.
This is likely the spot where he butchered his victims. It's still filled with some of their entrails. On the ground nearby, we find a tire iron.
If we can bring him in alive, there's enough physical evidence for an airtight case.
You heard him, Cole. He's fucking nuts. What are the chances of hauling him out of here alive?
On a table nearby, we find his surgical tools.
I hate to think what he's done with this thing. Medical experience, maybe? At least some working knowledge of biology. He's cruel and he's methodical.
And in the corner by the fireplace,
it's the basis for all his riddles. Prometheus defied the cruel gods. This guy thinks he's doing the same thing.
Defying gods can be hazardous to your health.
the very inspiration for his murderous rampage. But there's no time to explore his lair. We can't let him get away.
We're going down there?
I'll go. Call for backup and keep an eye out above ground and see where this thing comes out. Don't let me down, Rusty.
You're an interesting man, Detective. Why the police force?
This thing has come to an end. You know that.
Do I get a sense you're looking for personal redemption? Do you think we have something in common? acquainted with slaughter? Understood.
You're exactly what I expected. We were looking for a low achiever.
Now it is possible to kill him during this chase. But if we do, we miss out on all of his taunts. But if we're not quick enough, he can't escape. So instead, we'll track him through the catacombs as fast as we can.
Are you comfortable out of the light, Arthur? Are you comfortable?
Reinforcements are on the way. Cease and desist. Use deadly force.
This puts Cole in an awkward position. He has to climb a ladder into a room blind. And if we climb too close after Garrett Mason, we find him waiting for us. The key then is to watch our minimap until his red dot just begins to fade. Then
Where's the press, Cap? I think Phelps and I should get a medal for this. This has got to be the case of the year, right? The case of the century when you think about it.
Are you finished?
Yes, Skipper.
Good. Because there won't be any press briefings or commendations.
What are you talking about? We got the werewolf, the guy who killed the Dahlia, killed all the other broads.
You got no one. Mason was a ghost.
Can you at least tell us why, Captain?
Mason is the half-brother of one of the most highly elected officials in this country.
How high?
Beyond the moon for mere mortals like us, Rusty. There'll be no more mention of him. The city owes you both, but there'll be no mileage in ever bringing this up again.
What's going to happen to the suspects in the cases, Captain? I won't be a part of that.
A bit of missing evidence at the grand jury. A procedural error here, a mistake there. They'll all be quietly let go. The DA knows how we'll have to play it.
That's it?
I'm afraid it is. And I have some news for you, Phelps. No more rooting around in the entrails of cadavers and corpses for you. The head of vice has asked the chief for you. I'm reluctant to see you go to the glory boys of advice when my hands are tied. Go home to that lovely wife of yours and celebrate your promotion.
And with that, we finish our homicide cases, and Cole Phelps is promoted to add vice. Poor Galloway seemed really gutted that our partnership was coming to an end. Perhaps, after everything we had been through together, he had begun to warm up to our intrepid Cole. And so we learned that, at least in the universe of L.A. Noire, the Black Dahlia killer was really Garrett Mason, a temp bartender, but somehow connected to powerful figures in politics, which is why he will never be named. What really went on here will never be known, but at least we can walk away with the confidence that none of the other suspects we apprehended will be charged for a crime they never committed. I walk away conflicted because I really enjoyed the homicide task, and yet at the same time, I felt like some of the cases didn't make a lick of sense. To believe that Garrett Mason, this temp bartender, could have done each of the murders is tricky. It means he climbed into Angel Maldonado's apartment to plant the bloody shirt and the apparent murder weapons. It means that he put the second half of Evelyn Summers' torn letter from her mother into Grosvenor McCaffrey's apartment somehow. It also means that he, by chance, happened to pick victims whose husbands or boyfriends all had size 8 boots. And it leaves us wondering how he ever had an opportunity to meet Deirdre Muller, because she's the only victim who never got drunk at a bar on the night that she was murdered. So what opportunity did Garrett have to befriend her? I can't help but walk away feeling that some of the cases were a bit contrived. Now that we know who the real murderer is, it seems much more unrealistic that some of the evidence we had found would ever be there. That said, the homicide desk was filled with really fun cases, and they kept me at the edge of my seat. But what is in store for Cole Phelps now that he has joined Advice? To find out, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button to be notified when I publish my next episode. I have a shirt shop with completely unique designs that you can't find anywhere else, including Graduate of Oxhorn's driving school. My designs come on shirts in a variety of men's, women's, and children's sizes, and in a wide array of colors. You can find them on other items as well, like smartphone cases, pillows, posters, mugs, prints, etc. So if interested, you can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming a patron on Patreon or a member here on YouTube. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with the next episode of the full story of L.A. Noire.